If you're a custodial supervisor at a local high school, you know that cleanliness is key, and that the best place to get cleaning supplies is from Grainger. Grainger helps you stay fully stocked on the products you trust, from paper towels and disinfectants to floor scrubbers. Plus, you can rely on Grainger for easy reordering, so you never run out of what you need. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help you when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
Thursday Night Football is on, and it's only on Prime Video. This week, it's an AFC clash with the Baltimore Ravens when they meet the Miami Dolphins. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. Eastern with football's best party, TNF Tonight, presented by Verizon. Not a Prime member? Not a problem. Simply sign up for a 30-day free trial. It's the Ravens and Dolphins, Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern, only on Prime Video. Restrictions apply. See Amazon.com/Amazon Prime for details.
Welcome to Orioles on the Verge. This is Zach Spedden, joined as always by Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens. And the Orioles now have their new manager as the team announced the hiring of Craig Albernaz earlier this week. We're going to talk about his appointment to the post, as well as the impending changes that could be coming to the coaching staff as the Orioles gear up for the 2026 season. And just to start off here, let's get into who is Craig Albernaz. Albernaz has 11 seasons of experience as a professional coach. His two most recent seasons were with the Cleveland Guardians, including 1 year as a bench coach, followed by a season as associate manager in 2025. Prior to that, he had coaching experience in the major leagues of the San Francisco Giants and managerial experience in the player development system of the Tampa Bay Rays, who he was a player for many years after signing with the Rays as an undrafted free agent out of Eckerd College in 2006. Albernaz had a pro career that lasted through the 2015 season, ending the Detroit Tigers system and topping out at AAA. So the Orioles bring in someone who is highly respected around the game. If you've read any national reports in the last few days, you've gotten a sense of that. Albernaz was a finalist last year for two jobs. The White Sox and the Marlins would ultimately return to Cleveland for one more year, being part of Stephen Vogt's staff as the Guardians won their second straight American League Central title. And we're going to get into some of the attributes that Albernaz brings to this job, some of the experience that he doesn't have, and what are reasonable expectations for him before getting into what could happen with the coaching staff here in the next few weeks. And Nick, I will start with you. This news kind of came out of nowhere Sunday night, reported first by Jeff Passan, ESPN, announced by the Orioles officially the next day. This was a name that has been in the managerial rumor mill for a while, but not one that we had heard really strong connections to with the Orioles this offseason. So what were your thoughts on this decision?
First thought was I learned a new name because I had never heard of this man in my life before I saw the Jeff Passan tweet come across the timeline. So glad it's done. Glad they got this checkbox marked off here so we can start looking forward to the off season. It looks like, I don't know, World Series game 4, is it game 5 going on right now? So hopefully this is done very soon. As someone with no strong rooting interest, I'm ready for this to be done and get the offseason rolling. But yeah, it is nice to be done because I feel like last week, the mailbag episode, we had a couple of questions. We talked about this for a little bit, and I feel like that was it. That cleared my tank of wanting to talk about speculative manager talk anymore. So it's good we have a name. And I guess my initial takeaway is I'm cautiously optimistic about this hiring. Like, it's in all the reading about this since it was the announcement, it seems like this is a highly respected move from a lot of voices outside of Baltimore. I don't really see any value in looking at like old Cleveland statistics or trying to credit those to Albernaz, or like even his time with San Francisco as the bullpen coach out there, looking at those statistics, like those are unique situations, different rosters, different talents. He's here in Orioles, Baltimore with the new roster and everything. But by all accounts, and talk about some of the more specific attributes that I think are standing out. But general thought is just cautious optimism about this hiring.
Yeah, I'm glad, not that it's not important, but I'm glad it's over in the sense that, yeah, we don't have to speculate anymore. We know what we're going into the offseason with. Players that are interested in signing here, they'll know who we have. I had never heard of him either. Maybe that's on me, but I know he's, in hindsight, there are things like, oh, it's this guy that they were talking about in the 2024 playoffs. And like, oh, okay, I guess that kind of rings a bell. But no, I really basically had no idea who he was until all the articles started coming out and the Blue Sky posts, I guess, tweets. And the more you read, the more you see, the better it seems. And most importantly, I think he was, like you said, a finalist for those jobs last go around in the previous offseason. And it seemed like he was like the top choice for a few teams this year. And he chose to sign on with the Orioles, which is good. And I think today it came out that Ryan Flaherty was another finalist for the Orioles job. And we chose Albernaz over him, and he's a hot name. So that says something too. Yeah. I mean, from what I can gather, seems detail oriented, focused on fielding, base running, and he grew up in the Rays system. So that's, analytically forward, seems to fit all the check marks, like checks all the boxes. So yeah, I'm very excited to hear the press conference next week, see what he's got to say. And yeah, that's it. I think it's good.
Yeah. And that's one thing that we should probably state here is that, obviously we don't know what was said in the interviews. We've been getting tidbits of information basically from prior reporting about Albernaz, particularly during his time on the Guardian staff. He hasn't had his formal introductory press conference yet. That's not expected to happen until next week. So after that, I think we're going to get a little bit clearer sense of what attributes he has that drew the Orioles to him. I would agree with Nick that I'm cautiously optimistic. This seems like a well-respected guy who was going to be somebody's manager sometime in the very near future. And the Orioles are the ones that got out and got him. The couple of things that jump out at me that I want to bring up are, first off, his time with the Guardians. And I know that when you bring up organizations that the Orioles should emulate, it's always a little bit of a sticking point with some fans because people tend to look at the payroll numbers and not go beyond that. The Guardians are an organization that the Orioles need to emulate because look at what happened to them this year. Their offense kind of cratered. They had two good hitters. That was it. They were 15 and a half games out in early July. They wound up coming back and winning the AL Central. And one of the reasons they were able to do that is that their pitching development pipeline is really, really good. And if there's anything that he can glean from that and bring over to Baltimore, that's a win. And the other thing, too, is that having been in the American League East and having been in the NL West as a coach, he's going to understand the pressure of being in these kind of situations, because it's one thing to be on a successful staff in the AL Central, but it's another to know what goes on in the AL East, the teams you're lining up against. And Albernaz, from his years in the Rays organization, comes from a background where that was an organization that was ahead of the curve of a lot of teams just trying to figure out how to beat the Red Sox and the Yankees with more limited resources. And NL West, that has been a very competitive division for a while now. He was there when the Giants won 101 games a few years ago. That season did prove to be a little bit of a fluke, but it still happened. So there is some interesting background with Albernaz that I think aligns nicely with what the Orioles need.
No, yeah, that's a good point. He's been in a lot of good organizations to this point. And yeah, I think one article, I can't remember which one it was that I read. I apologize to the writer, but it seemed like he was good at creating a good environment in that Cleveland Guardians clubhouse. And I think Stephen Vogt attributed him saying that his success was also Albernaz's success. Apparently they worked incredibly closely together. But I think the most important thing is to garner the respect of the players, which I'm sure he'll have no problem doing that, but also just maybe helping to make the current guys on this team into more of leaders. I don't know if that's a thing, but like just trying to help that process along where you say, like, telling these guys, you don't need some veteran to tell you what to do. You know what you're supposed to do. I don't know. Rah, rah, rah. But basically just he needs to get the clubhouse in a good place and be able to keep it there, whether they're having success on the field or not. And it seems like he's got the personality for it based on everything that we've been reading. The Boston accent will take some time getting used to, I'm sure. But yeah, I think it sounds great so far.
Yeah, you start to learn about his background a little bit, and I felt like like many others, was like, all right, this seems like it could be good for Adley and Basayo, right? Because of the catching background, yada yada. And there's some other things as well. And then you take a step back though, and it was like there's a lot of similarities though between Albernaz and who has come before him in this role here with Baltimore, like Hyde also being the catcher, stories of him being able to connect with a lot of the guys and whatever. So, I think because there are so many similarities between him, just generally speaking, and guys like Hyde and some others before him, looking for like small things that maybe separate him, like what stood out as to why he was the option for the Orioles. And I really liked a lot of Rock's pieces. I think he had one or two that came out. I don't know if you guys read through those, but he had a lot of quotes and like really awesome stories from like scouts and some other people who were like very close with Albernaz. I think one guy was even like, it's like Albernaz is like my kid's first babysitter and like all that stuff. But a lot of those things were like, I think showed off the small things that separate him from others that could be real attributes. Like a lot of the focus that you guys touched on, his ability to connect with players and form genuine relationships that seem to go like beyond just baseball. I think there was one quote specifically in Rock's story about how those close to Albernaz thought that he'd be a manager in the future. That seemed like a given, but they assumed it was going to be in college, because there it's like where he could really flourish. And that relationship aspect of baseball, you need, as in recruiting, you need that, not just with the kid, but with the families. The families need to feel safe about sending their kid to play for you, and how he could flourish in that role. But here he is in the pros after this long story. And another quote I really liked from Rock's, I'm trying to pull it up here real quick. He's got a savvy baseball mind. He can read body language. He can look somebody in the eye and know exactly what they're doing in terms of truth or untruth. He's just got that knack. So it seems like that attention to detail and just that it factor, right? Like he reads people, he knows people, he gets people because he's genuinely interested, it seems like, in forming those relationships with people. So things like that ever evolving world of analytics, seems like he wants to stay afloat of that. This tidbits about, staying up all night, wanting to, if he could just get one person better at one thing for the next day, then like he was going to do that, even brushing up on his Spanish to speak to players. Like, I don't know. We'll see if any of that kind of sticks out, because I feel like we were kind of told things about like Brandon Hyde and Freddie Gonzalez when he was there on staff. Maybe there seemed to be some struggles near the end there about connecting. Yeah. And, some struggles about connecting, maybe even wanting to connect with the rookies coming up. That could be something else that separates Albernaz from those guys. So, yeah, it just seems like he could be that fiery hard ass when he needs to be, and a goofball when he needs to be, which I think fits this locker room pretty well from the stories you hear and what we know. And I also like the constant description of him as a Boston street kid. Like that stood out to me. I'm like, all right, maybe that is the kind of attitude that not so much like the leader who's I've been there, I've done this before. Yeah. This is how we do this. But a guy who's just going to kick you in the ass when you need it, but then also give you a hug when you need it. Like that's the kind of vibe that I'm getting here.
Yeah. Like myself, he's 5'8", so got some Napoleon complex, some fiery attitude. That's what we need right now. I know there was a lot of complaints about not arguing balls and strikes enough in the past, which to me is kind of silly, but maybe he'll help get the team a little more fired up more often. But I do love the quote that you said about knowing when someone's telling the truth or not. Like maybe we won't have Jordan Westbrook playing through injuries or Austin Hayes playing through injuries and Adley Rutschman playing through injuries. That seems to be a trend in the past couple of years. So hopefully he can be like, look, I can tell you it's bothering you. Let's give it a couple of days. You'll be better off for it. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I think we need that for sure.
I want to go to this because it is something that has been brought up a lot. This is a first-time manager in the major leagues. Albernaz has years of managerial experience in the minor leagues, but this is his first major league job. And I know that there were a lot of questions from fans in the aftermath of Brandon Hyde's firing of, so the Orioles' next manager have managerial experience. In particular, should they have experience managing in the playoffs? Because Brandon Hyde could get the Orioles to the playoffs, but he didn't even get a win during his 2 trips to the playoffs. So do you guys think that that matters that much in the long run?
Not particularly. I mean, if you could have got Bruce Bochy to not come out of retirement, but to want to manage again for a number of years after leaving Texas, then yeah, that's some valuable experience. But to me, I'd rather have this up and coming guy who could be like Terry Francona 2.0 when he was first started to manage versus no offense to Twins fans who just hired Derek Shelton, previously of the Pittsburgh Pirates, to be their new guy. That's not exactly, he's got some experience, like a Scott Servais. Experience, but experience doing what exactly? I'd rather have the up and coming guy and either hit or you don't. But yeah, I think experience is definitely important in some factors, but I think it just depends on what kind of experience you're talking about. And yeah, I mean, I just think also one of the guys like a Bruce Bochy or another a guy with a lot of experience is probably not going to want to come into a newer organization that's looking at analytics and they want to be a part of the decision making, which is just part of the game now. But I think a lot of these older experienced guys are not as comfortable with that.
Yeah, I know. I initially said many weeks ago when we first started talking about all this that I feel like my preference would probably been an experienced manager who already had the proven success in the big leagues, knows what it takes to not just get to the playoffs, but navigate through the playoffs. But really, like any thought or belief I had about this managerial process, it wasn't like a hard stance or anything. You'll see who it is and then learn who that person is and form an opinion at that point. But yeah, I do think there's a valid argument to wanting to see like real shakeup because this hiring does kind of seem almost like to an extent like cookie cuttery type. The former catcher who, scratch and clawed his way through the minor leagues, yada, yada, the whole deal. But I don't know. It's like, like I said, there's a lot of maybe those small intangibles, though, that with Albernaz that it clicked and why the Orioles wanted him so much and felt like he's going to be a great fit for this team. And also because you mentioned like the Cleveland situation and Cleveland being a good organization for the Orioles to emulate and him coming from that organization. That's an organization with a lot of like more homegrown talent, guys they develop. They're not spending a ton of money every offseason. The Orioles are going to be like that. Like this is a homegrown roster for the most part. They could spend more money, sure. Hopefully they do, but hopefully we get an impact free agent. But like you're not getting Kyle Tucker, Schwarber, or Alonso and Cesar Fromber this offseason. I highly doubt that. It's going to be a roster of largely homegrown guys with key role player free agents, hopefully a bigger free agent or two that comes to town, but they're going to be carefully calculated additions. And the Orioles aren't suddenly going to jump into the upper echelon in terms of like payroll. So, maybe Albernaz proves to be a great asset to the team in managing that type of roster. But again, until the regular season games are played, it just goes back to that cautious optimism there.
And it's not like Craig Albernaz hasn't been a part of successful teams. He's been in the playoffs the last couple of years with Cleveland. At least one playoff year with the Giants when they had 100+ wins that season. And I think when he was managing in Tampa Bay's minor leagues, they were like having tons of success and dominating the leagues that he was a part of there. So at least he's definitely been a part of some winning teams the last several years.
Yeah, I think the only way that you were going to have a managerial candidate managerial hire that you could put out there and everybody would be on board with it 100% would be Bruce Bochy, because no one can argue with a guy that's won 4 World Series titles and is going to go to the Hall of Fame as soon as he's eligible. If they had hired Rocco Baldelli, who I made a case for not long ago, or they had gone with Luis Rojas or Scott Service or Bob Melvin, those are all former managers who have some blemishes in their track record that you can point out and you can cast doubt on. So it's really, really hard. And I don't say that to say that I think that this is absolutely a better decision than any of those, because we still need to see how this plays out. But initially, there's a lot of things we're not going to know. And even with experienced managers, you can find issues in their track record. Now,
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
If you're a maintenance supervisor at a manufacturing facility and your machinery isn't working right, Grainger knows you need to understand what's wrong as soon as possible. So when a conveyor motor falters, Grainger offers diagnostic tools like calibration kits and multimeters to help you identify and fix the problem. With Grainger, you can be confident you have everything you need to keep your facility running smoothly. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.
We know what you're thinking. I just want jeans that look great, feel great, and hold up. At Ariat, we've been doing some thinking too. We're thinking about fit that moves with you, no matter where the ride takes you. Durability that stands up to hard work, harder play, and comfort that never quits. And all this thinking, it's really just about more living. Now, it's time to stop thinking and start shopping. Find your Ariat jeans at Ariat.com or a retailer near you.
We'll move over to the coaching staff, because this is something that we've learned more about in the days since Albernaz's hiring was first reported. And it does appear that we're heading for a little bit of a shakeup on the Orioles coaching staff. Sherman Johnson and Tommy Joseph, two of the team's hitting coaches last season, are not coming back. Johnson has reportedly taken a job in the Chicago White Sox system. Andy Koska at the Baltimore Banner was the first on that one. It's also pretty much expected, has not been outright confirmed, that Tony Manzolino is not expected to return next season after serving as interim manager following Brandon Hyde's firing in May. And then you have Anthony Sanders, who SNY reported this week has been given permission to talk to other teams about their coaching staff vacancies. So we're looking at a high probability of at least 3 or 4 spots on this coaching staff opening up. Now, we know that when new managers are hired, there's an expectation that a coaching staff is going to turn over. But I also don't know that as a first-time manager, Albernaz is necessarily going to get to go up and down the slate and pick his own people. So this is probably going to be a fairly collaborative approach, and it's very possible that some coaches from last year are going to come back. So, Bob, I'll start with you. Let's just look at the changes first. Based on the coaches that we know so far are leaving the Orioles, what are your thoughts on those moves?
Yeah, I'm not surprised at the things we've heard so far, especially, was it Tommy Joseph? I can't remember his first name. I believe it's Tommy Joseph. That one seemed weird. That one seemed like it was going to happen. I like Sherman Johnson. I'm disappointed that he's leaving, but he's going with Ryan Fuller, right? with over in Chicago. So that's a cool reunion right there for them. Anthony Sanders, not too surprised. He seemed like not exactly a Brandon Hyde guy, but along the same lines. And Manzolino, I would have been fine with him coming back as a coach, but I'm totally okay with him not coming back if he got the taste in a manager's job, and if there's changes being made and him or the team or both don't see a fit anymore, I'm totally okay with that. So yeah, no problems with the guys leaving. I think when you do not live up to expectations and you can't figure out how to hit a fastball in the strike zone, that these changes, they're going to happen. So that is what it is. I would not be shocked when we hear that there are even more coaches not coming back. I don't know exactly how many will return, but I'm expecting I could actually see as many as only like 3 coaches coming back. And I'm sure right now, ever since they signed a contract or came to agreement, I'm sure he's been talking to the coaches that are under contract to come back and seeing what he thinks and working together with the front office to see, all right, if the front office says, okay, here's a guy we like, Drew French, we think he's really good, blah, blah, blah. Talk to him, see how you feel. I'm sure that's what's happening now until we get an announcement of the coaching changes. And yeah, hopefully whoever he's comfortable with comes back. And if not, hopefully he gets to have a big say in the guys that do come in, because I do think it would be nice to have some cohesion. I know the Mets first base coach is not returning there, and he helped Juan Soto get 30 stolen bases. So bring him on in. I would like that.
I'm definitely interested to see what happens on the hitting side, just because, like, what other coaches do they bring in? Does Cody Ashley keep a role? Do they keep him as hitting coach? And is this more of a, we're going to change the philosophy because something needs to be changed drastically, right? You just mentioned we can't hit pitches in the zone. We talked about that plenty. That's a major issue. So I don't know if Ashley's going to stay. I haven't seen anything suggesting what's going to happen with his role. I personally like him and would like to see him stick around in some role. Maybe they move him back on the minor league side, working with upper level or lower level. I know he had multiple different roles before assuming the major league role. Or it's just like, hey, this is what we're going to do. These are the changes we're going to focus on with the hitting program. And we still like you being the voice of this. We still think you can do this. Like, you're still on the same page. Like, it's not you that's going to change. It's going to be the messaging that's going to change, which I'm cool with that. Maybe they bring in someone else and have co-hitting coaches again. Maybe you don't need 3, but you get 2 at least, and someone else who can, fit that vibe as well. But Sherman Johnson, I do agree. Like, he went straight from playing in indie ball to being the Orioles AA hitting coach. Heard a lot of great things about him from players directly. Orioles are clearly high on him because he immediately moved into the upper level. I think it was the upper level. Maybe it was lower level. I don't know, one of those rover roles in the minor leagues, and then to the major leagues the next season. A very quick ascension for Sherman Johnson. So all the best to him in Chicago. Tommy Joseph, see ya. I don't know what you did, but it didn't seem like you did much there, buddy. I'm interested to see where it goes from here. I'd like to see Drew French stick around. Personally, I could see, the bench coach. I feel like that would be a position they give him some leeway with. Who do you want standing next to you in this situation? Maybe it is Trinos. If they have some sort of relationship.
He was teammates with him in 2011 in the Rays system. I saw someone noted that. So, hey, who knows?
That'd be great. I like Trinos. He really seems like he really wants to be a big league manager at one point. I feel like there are a lot of positive things that he could bring in that role for another year or two. But I think the pitching coach stays the same. I think a lot of the pitching roles probably stay the same for the most part. But it's like, what do they do with the hitting coach situation, first, third base coach, like that stuff? I could see them saying, like, who are your guys that you want? We'll vet them. And if they fit us, you're good. We're going to hire them. But yeah, I don't know. It's also because, like, hitting, Albernaz seems to bring a lot of strengths to the organization. Right. But hitting, like, is that one of his strengths? I don't know. There's like the funny quote from Rock's Story about a scout who are like, kid's got no bat. He can't hit, but he's got a 1.78 pop time. He was elite at throwing out runners from behind the plate, but he can't hit a lick. He could end up being great for Adley and Basayo and great on the pitching side as well with all his experience there. But, like, is any of his experience in the hitting aspect of the coaching side? So I don't know. I'm interested the most to see what happens there over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I do think I would expect French and Plossmeyer back, and Buck Britton. I expect him to be back. I mean, I'm sure Albernaz will have a say in it, but I just can't see him talking with Buck and not hitting it off. Buck's pretty great, so I expect him to be back. I think the rest is up in the air. I agree with the Cody Ashley. I'm a fan. I know the org loves him. I think he'll be back one way or the other, whether it's main hitting coach or what have you. That's to be determined. But yeah, I wonder if he'll be able to steal any coaches from Cleveland to come with him, or if he's got other connections out there.
Yeah, and with Ashley, it'd be a lot easier to just move him in a different role, I feel like, and he could still it'd be nice and easy and a cool transition. Versus like Manzolino, with all the speculation of him not returning, that makes a lot of sense. I feel like that could get like awkward if he were to return to the clubhouse again next year. But
yeah, it would have been one thing if Manzolino had been replaced as interim manager in season and stuck around. It was just like, okay, that was a temporary thing. You can go back to your role now. But I have to think, in all fairness to Tony Manzolino, I've said before, I think he did an admirable job under the circumstances. So it would have to be awkward for him to come back, and it has to be awkward on the other end for Albernaz, because now your predecessor is on your coaching staff. And so I can't picture that would really be an ideal situation for either guy. I wish Manzolino well, and I'm sure he is going to land somewhere, but it would make sense that it's not in Baltimore.
Yeah, he managed over 100 games last year, right? So yeah, that would be a little weird for sure.
Yeah, and let's go in now to the last question of the night. And I know that this is kind of a quick episode, but we have a lot that we're going to be getting into here in the next few weeks with the offseason. In fact, next week is going to be our offseason predictions episode. So make sure you tune in for that. I just started the painful exercise of listening back to our pre-2025 optimism earlier today, and I will get through that show before next week. I'm not reading out every prediction, by the way, but we'll cover the highlights and the lowlights because we like to keep ourselves honest. But that's more for next week's episode. Go into this question now, and I think this is a great place to end. Given what the Orioles have gone through in the past year, what are reasonable expectations for Craig Albernaz and his coaching staff, whoever his coaches are, for success in year one? And this is recognizing that a lot of that is going to be determined by factors that are beyond their control. How much ownership is willing to spend? What decisions Mike Elias and his front office make this offseason in terms of player acquisition? Those are all things that are going to be beyond Albernaz's control. But maybe trying to balance that out with the things that we think he can control and the reasons why he's been brought in. What would look like? What would a first successful year in Baltimore look like for him and his coaching staff?
It's tough to say because we're not going to know necessarily how much is to do with him, is to do with being healthy, is to do with bounce backs. But is he a part of helping people bounce back? It's so hard to know. That's why the manager position, like, it's all soft factors. So there's nothing we can really grasp onto and compare. But I would say make the playoffs, whether it's a tough task or not, or if it's because of him or not, make the playoffs. And I think fans will be thrilled. I would love to see, and I know it's not Craig Albernaz that it's going to get these guys like Holiday and Adley hitting the fastballs that are in the zone and all the stuff that we know needs to happen in order to get the Orioles back to the playoffs, or at least back to winning more games than not. But he's the leader. He's the guy at the front of the line. So I think basically just make the playoffs. We'll love you for a long time until you miss them, basically.
I'm going to continue with the cautious optimism thing. And I'm going to start out slow, not even the first year, but just like the first month. And it's the little things being done right? All the quotes about him staying up all night to find one thing to get one player better at. Like, are we seeing the fundamental defense return? Is the defense look better through the first month of the year? Like, this team 2 months into the year this past season, they were pretty much out of it. the team tanked offensively in the second month of the year and found themselves in this hole that they needed a massive run to get back into contention. So I don't know, get a winning month, that first month of the season. Let's get a winning record and let's see the real change. Let's see Adley hitting well. Let's see Cowser building on that Rookie of the Year campaign, showing that multiple broken bones, ribs, whatever ailments he was going through last season are behind him. And the Cowser we saw last year, for the most part, is not a true representation of who he's going to be. Mayo picks up from where he left off. Like, nothing outrageous in these desires, but just get off to that promising start, see some real change in the small things. And then that's going to hopefully continue to snowball into a successful 2026 season. I mean, the bar after this past year, the bar is fairly low for him to clear, to be more successful. But I think at the end of the day, right, we're all still expecting this team to get back into World Series contention fairly quickly as soon as next year. So I do think overall the bar is high, but if you can just start out slow from the beginning, showing those small things, that they're going to snowball over the course of a long season. We saw it all snowball the wrong way last season. Get them snowballing the right way in 2026, and hopefully it leads to success.
Yeah, you've inspired me to add on to my answer, and that is use spring training to just tighten everything up. Tighten up that defense like you talked about. Tighten up the base running.
Not just run willy-nilly whenever you want to.
Yeah, and just get the team in a place where, honestly, like the Cleveland Guardians, like they have really solid defense and base running. They couldn't hit very much, but at least have the team in a position where even if the hitters are slumping and you don't need everything firing on all cylinders, if your defense is tight, the base running's good, you can squeeze out the games that maybe last season we would have lost in a frustrating way.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that that's a great place for him to start, is really getting the fundamentals back on track. And I know that sounds like a cliche thing, but it does matter. You look at the defensive metrics for the Orioles this year, they were pretty bad defensively. And that's not the only reason that they struggled, but it's another sign of a team that just doesn't have it together for various reasons. So really get back to playing good defense and really help this young core out and make sure that guys who don't necessarily have major league track records, like I'm not concerned about Gunnar Henderson. We've talked about that numerous times. He's the least of my worries. But helping guys like Colton Cowser bounce back from a sluggish second year in the big leagues, helping guys like Kobe Mayo build off of a really promising end to a season, or even Dylan Beavers for that matter. That was a pretty good run for him in the major leagues. Helping him to build off of that, helping Jackson Holliday do whatever it is he needs to do to produce consistently, because last year we saw flashes of why Jackson Holliday can end up being a pretty special player in the league one day, but unfortunately it came in too short of spurts. So getting more consistent production from him, helping to aid this pitching staff back to health, these are all things he can do just with the players that are in-house right now. Anything that he's able to do with players that are acquired over the offseason, whether it's trades, free agencies, waiver claims that work out, whatever it is. But when you look at the group of players that are here and now, those are the things he can do to help. It's not going to instantly turn the Orioles into a World Series contender, but it will get them back on the right track.
I've also seen a lot of comments. I honestly did not pay attention to the Tony Mansolino press conferences, but I've seen a lot of comments about Mansolino calling them points instead of runs. So maybe a first start, just calling them runs is a big win, step forward as far as the manager is concerned, to keep it lighthearted there.
And before we wrap up here, I just want to shout out one of our commenters on YouTube at Timothy Park 4753, who jumped in with nice haircut, Bob, about 20 minutes into the episode. And Bob, is this your favorite YouTube comment of the year?
It's got to be, right? I mean, it's up there with Howdy Boys. So, yeah, I appreciate it. I did get a haircut today. Thank you for noticing.
And with that, now, if you want to check out Bob's hair next week, you can tune in Wednesday night when we break down our off-season predictions. And you can also listen to that episode when it comes out on our podcast feed. Either way, don't miss it. In the meantime, you can follow us on our many social media channels, including Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X, TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, and Blue Sky. We're also over at Substack, oriolesontheverge.substack.com. And while you're browsing around the internet, be sure to head over to Patreon and sign up to become a member of our community today. You can join to $3, $5, and $10 levels and have access to bonus coverage from Bob, Nick, and myself, which will include in the coming weeks the beginning of our top 50 prospects countdown for the 2026 season. So be sure to join in now to have access to that and a whole lot more. For Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens, this is Zach Spedden. You've been listening to Orioles on the Verge, part of the Believe Podcast Network.
If you're a maintenance supervisor at a manufacturing facility and your machinery isn't working right, Grainger knows you need to understand what's wrong as soon as possible. So when a conveyor motor falters, Grainger offers diagnostic tools like calibration kits and multimeters to help you identify and fix the problem. With Grainger, you can be confident you have everything you need to keep your facility running smoothly. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.